Peace and love, Ajay Divine jumping in as always. Okay, so this is a quick PSA. I also do birth work, birth worker, birth keeper, doula. I hold space for women to have babies. I focus on natural birth. I focus on spiritual birth, and then all things holistic when it comes to everything after also. Um, but one thing that I cannot believe is still going on is fucking male circumcision. That barbaric practice must stop because in order to protect women, to bring down, rape, sexual assault, molestation, you can't sexually assault newborn males at birth. It's called karma. That shit comes back around. So as long as women are circumcising, genital mutilation is what it is. But as long as women are continuing to do this to newborn males without consent, they are creating victims. They are making victims out of their sons. And we know what? That victims of sexual abuse are more likely to what? Abuse other people. So if we're talking about anything with rape, consent, and all that, circumcision needs to be at the top of the list of discussion. Because we're talking about a newborn, defenseless baby within days of being born, being sexually mutilated beyond molestation, y'all. So if this practice has been outlawed for women, how is this still a thing for boys? How are we still going to do this? How are we still justifying this? How are women still playing the victim when most mothers are indeed the abuser, or at least allowing their children to be abused? They're babies. They're newborn babies, y'all. And this is not, they don't consciously maybe, but circumcision changes the synapses and connectors and your neural links, there we go, in your brain after it. Their brains before circumcision are not the same as their brains after. So that is permanent change, damage. That is a major trauma that permanently changes their brain. So if you're going to continue to allow male circumcision under some false pretense of that it's cleaner or it's for medical reasons or any of that bullshit that's not true, go do some research and find out for yourself. And that actually leads to painful erections. Countries that have the highest rate of circumcision also have the highest rate of impotence in older age. So it's time to come out of that. And we cannot, I don't even have the stomach to sit through stories or conversations about rape and molestation and what's going on with women if we're not going to be talking about what's going on to these baby boys. And while everyone is pretending like it's okay, but then being completely shocked and confused about how common rape and molestation is and how, maybe 3 out of 4 women have experienced that at some point in time, because we are, not me, but we as a collective, because most people are still doing it, are creating victims who later go on to become victimizers. How can someone who has something so intimate cut off, because the foreskin is not just skin, there's nerve endings in there. What if somebody cut off the clitoral hood and said, hey, I just want to keep your clit exposed all the time? That's exactly what you do when you remove the foreskin. You're keeping the most sensitive parts of a male exposed, and then they become desensitized. And then if you add in porn culture and all that shit, yeah, it's a recipe for fucking disaster, and that's what we're seeing. But until mothers decide that it's not okay for their little boys to be sexually mutilated, that it's not normal not to go home with your whole baby fully intact, that indeed the creator, human design, whatever you want to call it, everything on our body is for a reason. All of it. All of it has purpose. The foreskin is a natural lubricant. Foreskin keeps their head sensitive. So why? So they don't have to do all that fucking friction to get off. Because it's still sensitive. Because it's covered. And it's so much more. Okay, so if you've never seen an intact penis, when you actually pull the foreskin back, it looks like the inside of the mouth. It's very smooth and very, very shiny. It looks sensitive. It looks like the other sensitive parts of your body. But when you see a circumcised, a mutilated penis, because that's what it is, when you see a mutilated penis, it's usually drier, a lot drier. There's nothing soft about it. Now, of course, I mean, it's skin, so it's soft, but the inside of your mouth, the inside of your vagina lips, the inside ones, that type of tender, that type of sensitivity. If that was completely exposed all the time, eventually your skin is going to develop callus. It's going to callus a little bit. It's going to dry out. It's going to adapt to its new way of being. And that's not a good adaptation. For women, we don't even have to talk. But for women, even like sexual experience, that is not a good adaptation. It's not a good adaptation for men either because they lose a lot of their sensitivity. And on top of that, most males would not identify as a victim. Most males would not say they were sexually mutilated at birth. They also think it's normal. It has been normalized, but the results of it are very, very fucking real. So we're having conversations about consent, about women and sexual abuse, and about these things. We have to include male newborn babies and circumcision. Has to be included. Because if not, all you're doing is feeding the cycle. So if you're going to continue to traumatize and sexualize, because most people will say, well, nobody want no uncircumcised penis and blah, 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 blah. That ain't no woman going to want that. So why are you trying to make sexual decisions for your newborn baby? That's weird. But it's not there's no benefits. There are no benefits to anyone that outweigh the damage that is done, not only to the baby boy, but also to society as a whole. From the first couple days of their life, their consent has been disrespected completely, and it's something that is taken from them. It's taken. It's gone. It's not coming back. The way their bodies are supposed to operate and work is changed forever. The way their brain connections work and are connected, it's changed forever. It's changed forever. So how do we not know, or we must at least consider the fact that these changes in their brain make it more likely for them to become victimizers and abusers. The amount of numbing that it takes on such a subconscious level, because it's a newborn baby, y'all. And the view of their world, it's not a safe place. This is not a safe place if you come in and you get fucking tip of your penis cut off. Some of the most sensitive areas cut off, mutilated. Does that make it feel like a safe place? And we think these anger issues come out of nowhere. We are going to have to let go of barbaric practices if we're going to move forward. Fuck it, as a race, as a tribe or whatever, this cannot continue. If it's wrong for newborn little girls and women in general, how can it be okay and right for newborn males? What kind of cognitive dissonance are we living in that this still seems to be okay? Because on a mass scale, women, you're the mothers and you're doing it, you're creating karma. You are putting that energy out for that energy to come back to you. So if we want to get to the real roots of some of these problems, of some of these issues, then let's get real. If we want to stop having so many women and little girls that are being touched and raped and molested and sexually assaulted, let's start by respecting the autonomy of newborn males. It's that simple. And it sucks that we still have to have this conversation. But it's still going on. And it's so unnecessary. It is completely unnecessary. If you have never watched a newborn circumcision, just type it in your browser and watch one. And if you don't want to watch it, then you shouldn't be putting your child through that. I've heard mothers say that they couldn't go back there with them. They just sent the baby back there to get it done. Oh, so the one person that I've known from the inside out just sent me off to let someone who I don't know, some cold, sterile environment, mutilate me. And then bring me back and act as if it's perfectly normal and it's okay and it's never talked about again. That's why most men don't see themselves as victims, and they don't understand that they've been victimized or mutilated. And they don't even understand or want to understand the effects of that. They don't want to accept that it has changed them, that it does have an effect, and they really, really, really want to then impose that same thing on their son. So if we're going to break the cycle, if we're going to start being sexually responsible, if we're going to start bringing spirituality back into sexuality, because if you're cutting someone's genitals, that is a sexual act. That is a sexual fucking mutilation, attack, all of that shit. There's a documentary, Eric Clapper, maybe? Yeah, anyway. But he talks about everything, the religious, why they started doing it, like the religious part of it, how the rabbis used to just fucking bite it off. They used to bite the foreskin off at one point, okay? That when they first started to use it a lot, there was never any mention of it being medically necessary. That just became something so they can continue to normalize it. Not to mention, they sell the foreskin. It's a profit thing too. All kind of skin creams and shit's made out of your son's foreskins. It's crazy. Actually, I think there's a clip. There's a clip I seen with Steve Harvey was talking about this lady was like, hey, there's this new cream or whatever, and it's made out of foreskin. And they make a big, he's like, oh my God. Leave with your whole fucking baby, y'all. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. It's crazy that we're still thinking that it's okay to mutilate babies at birth. At one point, it was called penis reduction surgery. So if you why you want your son's penis to be smaller? Why are you undergoing these major things without doing any research, without asking any questions? We should know now that everything within this mainstream system, within this U.S. culture, just because it's normal does not mean that it's right or beneficial. Half the time it was made to work against the people to keep them under control. It was made to hurt the people. That is a lot of what U.S. culture is. It is made to keep people down, hurt people, and inflict long-lasting effects that they can benefit off of. So now if you've been sexually mutilated, you're going to tend towards sexual deviance. It's going to be easy to introduce those things to you because on a subconscious level, you know you have been sexually mutilated. You know that something's wrong. You know that something's off. So if we are not going to address that whenever we are talking about rape, whenever we are talking about consent, whenever we are talking about molestation and how often women are sexually abused, then we're not talking about shit. because nobody's going to take responsibility for some of the reasons why this is the norm. Men are not born monsters. They're different than women, but they're not born just to do shit like this. We're going to have to start looking at the culture and the things that are happening to men, to little boys, to babies, to understand the results that we are getting. It doesn't start with just in college trying to help people understand consent. We know what the fuck consent is. However, if you weren't given consent, if you didn't give your consent for the biggest mutilation sexually, then how serious can you take the idea of consent? And I'm talking about on a subconscious level. That's what we seem to forget, is the things that are buried down in our subconscious play out consciously. So are we ready to change or not? Are we building a culture of healing and growth and soul exploration and all these beautiful spiritual ideas? Or is it just all fucking talk and fluff and you're going to continue to do the same shit and get the same results and then want to talk about it and have conversations about it and then protest about it and do all this fuck shit about it when you don't actually want to work at the root and give baby boys the same respect that you're asking that women get? You're asking that they respect consent, that they respect your word, that they don't sexualize you, and that they don't sexually violate you. Yet, in the same breath, these women will go on to have sons and sexually violate them. It's a fucking joke. It sounds like a joke. So, if we're ready to move on, that's one of the things that has to go. It has to go. And as a birth worker, I must say this. I've said it before, but I've never recorded a video on it. But today is the day I recorded a video, and this shit must stop. It's barbaric, it's stupid, and it needs to be over. Peace and love.